Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at a watch from Hamilton with the Khaki Field Day date with the black PVD case. So in this video, we'll go through an overview of this timepiece, look at some things to consider, and on this channel, we cover watches exclusively on our store at TeddyBaldassarre.com. So in this video, throughout it, if you have any questions or want some more information or want to purchase this watch, check out the link in the description. You can also book a time with one of our dedicated watch specialists as well. But guys, let's jump into the video and take a closer look at this watch. During its time as an American watch company, Hamilton had a long and extensive history of producing military field watches for the United States during the First and Second World War. Even though Hamilton is now a Swiss company, they continue to produce modern military field watches under $1,000, which are very popular, particularly here in the United States. But the model that we're going to be looking at today is really a 21st century take on a 20th century field watch, catering to a global marketplace, with this one being the Khaki Field Day Date Automatic. So taking a look at this watch on the wrist, you have a striking 42mm black PVD coated stainless steel case with a 20mm lug-to-lug distance and a thickness of 11mm and measuring at 51mm from the lug-to-lug tip. Now this watch, in terms of dimension, it is going to be thin on the wrist, but that lug-to-lug distance is going to make this probably best suited for medium to larger size wrists. I would say it wears closer to that of a 41mm case, but that thin bezel isn't necessarily doing it any favors for wearing very compact on the wrist. It's going to create a visual dynamic that's going to make this one probably look pretty true to its size generally. Now between the lugs sits a soft padded black strap with a synthetic nylon-like texture to the top side and supple calfskin underneath. Now there is no taper to the strap, and you'll find a matching PVD coated H-style pin buckle to secure it to your wrist. Even though the look of the watch is quite sporty and tactical, if you choose to wear this piece with a cuff shirt, you shouldn't have too much problem having this one slide underneath the cuff of a shirt sleeve, just given the thinness of this one. Now the entire case is black PVD coated with brush finishing along each side through the lugs and down through the case back. A nice detail to the case is the slightly beveled edge with a high polished finish along the case edge where it meets your wrist for some added comfort. Now the lugs have a nice inward taper, giving the case a sporty but elegant look. Although the watch is very sporty in its design, the crown on this piece is push-pull and not screw down in that variety. In terms of crown operation, pretty typical here. So first position, you can hand wind the watch. Counterclockwise at that second position, change the day, and then clockwise, you can then change the date. And at the farthest pulled out point, you can adjust the time while stopping the second hand in the process, so hacking seconds here. Now this watch does only have 50 meters of water resistance and does not feature a screw down crown, so just as a push-pull variety, so that is one downside of this timepiece and one point of consideration. A high polished PVD bezel breaks apart the brushed finish that you find throughout the rest of the case. It's certainly also worth noting here that while no PVD is totally scratch resistant, I do find Hamilton's application of the coating strong enough to withstand normal wear and tear on a daily basis. It won't be immune to deep scratches or gouging, but wearing it daily under regular conditions shouldn't damage the coating too badly. Now, I have owned some Hamilton PVD watches. I think when you're starting to go under $1,000 and looking at PVD, I think generally it's not always the greatest idea in terms of longevity of that watch and how it's going to appear, but I find Hamilton does a much better job than some of the other competition in the price range. But just setting that level of expectation here, is it good PVD for the price? Absolutely. Is it indestructible? No, it's not. Protecting the dial is an AR-coated sapphire crystal that sits flush with the bezel. Underneath, you'll find an intricate black dial with monochromatic design details. The dial has two different finishes, and those finishes play with the light, giving off just a bit of life and differentiation from this other dials in the price category. Starting with the inner portion of the dial, it is a matte black section with white minute tracking along the periphery. To the inside of the white tracking are dark gray hour indicators to begin at a 12-hour and then work their way through 24. Frankly, these numbers are a little difficult to see in certain lighting conditions and don't provide the kind of contrast you typically want, and it's not going to hold up to the same degree as that of some of the white marking on this particular example. The outer portion of the dial has a concentric circle texture to it, giving it a slightly more reflective tone and making it almost anthracite in color rather than a deep black. The painted Arabic hour numerals are the same dark gray color as the interior dial's hour markers, but are more legible because of the size. To accompany the Arabic numerals along the chapter ring are small superluminova pips, which are the only luminous features on the dial itself. The lume is adequate, but given the just coloration of those markers and those pips being rather small in size, I wouldn't expect the best of the best lume here. Thankfully, however, where the lume is lacking on the dial, it's made up with the hour and minute sword style hands, which do have a healthy amount of superluminova, and a long sweeping second hand with a red tip adds only the splash of color to the dial that you're going to find. Everything else is pretty just muted in terms of its approach. At the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock of the interior portion of the dial, you'll find the date and the date windows. The discs are black with white lettering and keep consistent with the overall look of the dial. So flipping this watch over, you'll find a brushed PVD screw down case back, and some companies tend to leave the case backs untreated, but Hamilton doesn't cut any corners here. Within the exhibition glass, you'll find the automatic Hamilton caliber, the H30, which is based on the ETA C07111 and is part of the Powermatic family of movements. Now, Hamilton is a member of the Swatch Group, and with that comes some great added benefit with its access to movements, and the movement inside of here is certainly a great example of just that. So all of these movements that are using these Powermatic 80 technologies are essentially just taking a traditional ETA caliber and dropping the beat frequency from 28,800 vibrations per hour to 21,600 vibrations per hour, so 3 hertz, to allow the maximum storage of that mainspring, that energy stored, to go over to 80 hours. This also comes with laser regulation of the movement itself, so you're going to get some good performance in terms of accuracy here. Also coming with some up resistance to shock and magnetism with its balance assembly. Pretty simple finish in terms of the rotor hollowed out, featuring that Hamilton logo, but a straightforward movement with great everyday versatility. Again, operating at 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 hertz, features hacking and hand winding, hacking stopping the second hand when you pull out the crown to the farthest position, and has a power reserve of 80 hours. All right, so now to unpack, looking at this Hamilton Khaki Field Day date. Now, just some points of consideration when looking at this watch. Now, Hamilton, the Khaki collection, I think is some of the best value in the world of watchmaking, under $1,000 without question. I'm a huge fan of this entire collection. This particular one is not leaning into the classic dimensions as well as packaging that comes from this Khaki Field collection, and going for something a bit more modern, stealthy, tactical. And that comes with, I think, a little bit more polarization in terms of who it's for, as well as maybe some opinions about it. Now, that said, for the right type of consumer, it is certainly going to look the part with kind of this blacked out effect. A couple points of consideration here: the lume, not the best. Straps are going to be a bit harder to pair compared to the typical khakis that are known for their versatility and being strap monsters, for lack of better just terms here. And then also the legibility is not going to be the best in comparison to other traditional Khaki Field collections. The movement, though, you're getting the up performance and just regular expectation that comes with these Khaki Field watches. 80-hour power reserve, fantastic. The strap is comfortable with that underlining, and I think does look the part with this piece. And that monochromatic dial, as well as the thickness of this one, it just looks great on the wrist. That black PVD coating is going to not be for everybody, and you have to keep in mind the downsides of these types of watches as well. But in terms of the packaging of this piece and who it is probably best suited for, somebody who has a medium to larger size wrist, who likes this blacked out look and wants the common and familiar perks of going with a Hamilton Khaki collection watch. Alright guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, as that is a great way to help out this channel. Also, if you are interested in this watch, definitely check out the link in the description to teddybaldassarre.com. We are a full authorized dealer of all the brands that we carry, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support. All of our products also come with a factory warranty, so if anything goes wrong, you are completely covered. Also, we offer price match, so if you see one of our watches for cheaper at another authorized dealer, fill out the contact form and we'll be in touch with you. And then again, 9 out of every $10 that we generate goes right back into the content that we're creating, helping to foster a new generation of watch enthusiasts. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.